Fiancée accepted her ex and married him, but when everything collapsed she came back regretting. My name is Martin. I'm 31 years old and I work as an electrician. I've been doing this for about 8 years now. It's a stable job with good pay. Until recently, I was engaged to Daniela, 29 years old, a physical therapist who worked at an exclusive sports medicine clinic downtown. We had been together for 4 years, living together for the last 2. We got engaged in February and apparently everything was going well. We started talking about the wedding. She wanted to have it in the fall of the following year, a big church ceremony with a reception at a country club. That seemed fine to me. My parents adored her, and her family seemed to get along well with me. Everything was moving forward until the unthinkable happened. That day, I was working on a construction site, installing electrical wiring in an office building. It was a long, exhausting shift, the kind that leaves you covered in dust after crawling through narrow ceilings with outdated wiring. I got home around 6 p.m., completely worn out. All I wanted was a hot shower and something to eat. I immediately noticed something strange. Daniela's car was in the driveway, and that surprised me because on Tuesdays she usually stayed late for administrative meetings with other therapists, or at least that's what she had always told me. I entered the house and found her sitting on the sofa, still in her work clothes, but there was something different about her expression. She looked anxious, as if she was about to tell me something important but didn't know how. That kind of look someone has when they're about to drop unexpected news, a pregnancy, a promotion, or something like that. I dropped my tool bag at the entrance, and before I could say anything, she looked at me directly and said, "Martin, can we talk? I need to tell you something." That tone, the tone you know brings trouble. "Sure, tell me." She took a deep breath and said it without beating around the bush. "Ivan proposed to me today." Just like that. No context. I laughed because I thought it was a joke, something weird that happened at her work or something she saw on social media. But she wasn't smiling. She was looking at me seriously, waiting for my reaction. And that's when my mind started connecting the pieces. Ivan, her high school ex-boyfriend. I had heard his name mentioned a few times, but I always assumed he was part of the past. I asked her how long she had been seeing him. She replied, "For a while." A while meant they had been seeing each other since March, 2 months after our engagement. It wasn't a chance encounter or a casual message. These were planned, scheduled meetings. While I was working overtime to pay for the engagement ring and we were looking for wedding venues together, she was secretly meeting with her teenage ex. And when he proposed marriage to her, she accepted. I felt the air leave my lungs. She was standing in front of me with MY ring on her finger, telling me she was going to marry someone else. Then everything clicked into place. The long nights weren't for work, they were dates with Ivan. The mysterious calls weren't from patients, they were for him. The new makeup, the clothes she said were to look more professional. All of it was for him. The emotional coldness wasn't stress about the wedding. It was because she wasn't in love with me anymore. I told her, "Take off my ring." "Martin, let me explain." "Take off the ring." Daniela did it slowly and left it on the coffee table. 3 months of my salary, thrown there like it was worthless. "You have 1 hour to pack your bags and leave." 1 hour, Martin? "Please, let's talk." There was nothing more to say. She had already made her decision. I called my sister from the truck with trembling hands. Veronica wanted to come to the house, but I just needed Daniela to disappear from my space, my life, and my future. 45 minutes later, she came out with 2 suitcases and told me that maybe with time we could be friends. Friends. After destroying 4 years of our relationship for an adolescent nostalgic fantasy. She got in her car and left. That's how it all ended. I went back inside and felt the house was empty, lifeless. The ring was still where she left it. I put it back in its box and stuck it in a dresser drawer. I didn't know what else to do with it. The following days were brutal. I took some days off because I couldn't concentrate on work. I almost got shocked twice on Tuesday. I was so disconnected from everything that I was a danger even to myself. My supervisor sent me home after seeing me trip over the same ladder 3 times. At home, everything reminded me of her. Her favorite mug in the cupboard. The blanket she always used still folded on the sofa. Small traces that suddenly became daggers in my memory. And as if that wasn't enough, her family started writing to me. Less than 24 hours later, I received a message from her mother. "Martin, I know this is difficult, but Daniela has found her soulmate. Ivan was always the love of her life. I hope you can understand and be happy for them." Be happy for them? After 4 years? Then her father left me a long voice message telling me that things happen for a reason, that Ivan and Daniela have a deep bond, a real history from their youth, that I seemed like a good guy, that sometimes love simply finds its way, as if what we had didn't matter at all. Her sister also wrote wrote that she had never seen Daniela as happy as she was with Ivan, that they were made for each other. A true love always wins, as if I had been the obstacle in their fairy tale story. Nobody apologized. Nobody acknowledged that what she did was cruel. Everyone celebrated their true love as if I had never existed, as if I were nothing more than a replaceable spectator. I blocked each one of them. Social media, phones, emails. I didn't want any more of their fake compassion or twisted excuses contaminating my head. If this story is resonating with you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And drop a comment below. Have you ever been blindsided by someone you trusted? Let's continue. My parents, on the other hand, were devastated. My mother cried when I told her everything. She was already planning what she was going to wear to the wedding. My father was furious. He asked me several times if I wanted him to go talk to Ivan. I had to calm him down. I didn't need my almost 60-year-old father ending up arrested for giving me revenge that wouldn't give me anything back, although deep down, I appreciated the impulse. My sister Veronica was a real lifesaver during this entire process. She would show up every few days with takeout food, making sure I was at least eating something decent and not just whatever junk I had in the pantry. She would sit with me while I vented everything I was carrying inside. She didn't try to give advice or magical solutions. She just listened, nodded, and told me that Daniela was garbage. The best thing about Veronica was that she wasn't surprised by anything that was happening. She confessed that for months she had noticed strange attitudes in Daniela, but she hadn't wanted to say anything without proof. She remembered how Daniela would go blank every time someone mentioned commitments or marriage, as if her mind disconnected from the moment. Additionally, she was the one who helped me start packing everything Daniela had left behind. It's incredible what a person can accumulate in 4 years. Creams and bottles in the bathroom. Forgotten clothes she didn't manage to take when she left suddenly. Books and magazines all over the house. We put everything in boxes, and I left them at her sister's house without saying a single word. Work also served as a distraction. My coworkers noticed that something serious had happened, but nobody got into my business. In this field, nobody talks much about feelings, which honestly was exactly what I needed. 3 weeks later, I saw the engagement announcement. Professional photos in some park downtown. Her and him, Ivan, her high school ex, smiling as if the entire universe conspired in their favor. And the ring was bigger than the one I had given her. Shouldn't have bothered me, but it did. Classic move. She had to outdo me as if it were a competition. The comments on the post were worse. Destiny. True love always finds a way. What a beautiful reunion. As if they were celebrating a great love story instead of the ruin of my relationship. I started thinking that maybe I had dodged something worse. If someone can leave behind 4 years of shared life for an old teenage love, maybe they were never really ready to commit. It hurt, yes, but it was better to find out before a wedding than after 5 years and 2 kids. Veronica kept reminding me that this said much more about Daniela's character than mine, that I deserved someone who wouldn't doubt, who saw commitment as something valuable, not something that gets discarded as soon as a better offer appears. She was right, but understanding it didn't make it hurt any less. When someone you love decides you're not enough, there's no logic that serves as consolation. After the announcement, I stopped looking at social media. I wasn't interested in following the fairy tale they were building on the remains of what had been my story. I started concentrating on my life. Work stayed stable. I took some well-paid extra projects and felt like my head was finally back in place. Until yesterday, I received a message that made me doubt if I was living in an alternate reality where people had completely lost their minds. Daniela, the woman who destroyed a 4-year relationship to get back with her high school ex, had the audacity to ask me for money for her wedding. And no, this isn't a joke. I'm going to explain this calmly because I still have trouble processing it. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and my phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. It took me a moment to realize it was her, probably using another phone because I had blocked her everywhere months ago. The message was short. Hi, Martin. I hope you're well. I wanted to talk to you about something important. My first reaction was to block her again, but curiosity got the better of me. I thought that with everything that had already happened, she couldn't do any more damage, so I responded asking what she wanted. And that's when she left me speechless. She told me that she and Ivan were organizing their wedding for the following month, but the budget wasn't enough, and she asked if I could help them financially. Just like that. No beating around the bush. It wasn't a loan. It was simply asking for money to get married, to marry each other, after she left me for him. I had to read it 3 times to make sure I understood correctly. This woman ruined our relationship, traded me for someone else, and now expected me to contribute to the expenses of her wedding. The same wedding that a few months ago would have been ours. And the best or worst part came next. She clarified, Ivan doesn't know I'm asking you this, so don't worry. As if the fact that she was hiding this from her fiancé was supposed to be comforting to me. As if I should be relieved that he didn't know his future wife was asking her ex for money to celebrate their union. The audacity was astonishing. It was evident she saw me as a simple ATM to turn to when things got difficult. I stared at the phone for like 10 minutes, trying to figure out if this was a bad joke or if one of her friends was messing with me. But no, the tone was completely serious. She really thought this was something reasonable. I wanted to call her, scream at her about how crazy she was, but I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of getting that reaction. So instead, I asked her why she thought that I, of all possible people, would want to help them pay for their wedding. Her response was even worse than the request. She told me that we had shared 4 years together and that she knew I was a good person, someone who wanted others to be happy, that although things hadn't worked out between us, she hoped I would want her to have the wedding of her dreams, because according to her, that's what noble people do, support their ex's happiness, even if it hurts them. It was such obvious manipulation that it was almost offensive. She wanted to make me feel guilty, as if saying no would make me a heartless egotist instead of a person with some dignity. And then she mentioned what I had been earning lately with my extra jobs. That alarmed me. How the hell did she know that? Was she talking to my friends? Had she been spying on me through social media? Either option was concerning. She said that Ivan's construction company wasn't going through a good time and that they had already paid some advances to vendors they didn't want to lose, that they only needed a few thousand to cover what was missing, but she would always remember fondly that I had helped them in that moment. A few $1,000s for the wedding she decided to have with another man, the same one she chose over me. In the end, I decided to respond, although I made it clear that she must have completely lost her mind if she really believed I was going to give her a single cent, much less to finance her wedding. How could she ask me something like that? Asking her ex-fiancé for money to start a new life with another man was, without a doubt, one of the most absurd things I had ever heard. Her reaction was immediate and, as I expected, she got defensive. She told me she was only asking because she knew I cared about her happiness, that she thought I would be mature enough to get over our breakup and help her as a friend. According to her, breaking my heart gave her the right to continue counting on my financial support, as if her happiness were my eternal responsibility. I told her to delete my number and never contact me again. I told her that if she was short on money for her wedding, maybe she should turn to her family, the same one that celebrated her decision to leave me, or better yet, that Ivan should take charge and find a way to pay for the event instead of allowing his fiancée to ask her ex for financial help. She insisted once more, accusing me of being resentful, of not having moved on, and said that if I had really turned the page, helping her would prove I didn't hold a grudge against her. More manipulation disguised as emotional maturity. I didn't respond. I simply blocked her number and continued with my day. But I couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. What kind of person, months after ruining a relationship, thinks their ex will be willing to pay for their new beginning? And the worst of all was how natural it had been for her to make that request. Not a single word acknowledging how inappropriate it was. Not an apology for putting me in that position. Nothing, just that attitude of someone who expects that just because we shared a history, I should keep opening my wallet every time she ran out of money, as if our history gave her lifetime access to my resources. It made me think what other boundaries she would be willing to cross if she ran out of money. Would she ask me to watch her kids someday? To help her pay the mortgage? To co-sign a loan when Ivan's business went under? The arrogance was impressive. We were together 4 years, and she learned nothing about who I am if she really thought I would finance her wedding with another man. At least now I'm clear that leaving that relationship was the best thing that could have happened to me. I can't imagine living with someone who has such a distorted idea of what's right and what's not. As if all of that wasn't enough, last week my sister Veronica ended up telling me the rest of the story. She had already heard rumors from mutual friends, but she waited to have all the information before telling me. Turns out the perfect love story between Daniela and Ivan lasted exactly 6 months. Apparently, he had been unfaithful to her from the beginning. And I'm not talking about an occasional affair. I'm talking about parallel relationships with several women at the same time. He was dating 3 different women, each one believing she was the only one. One of them discovered what was happening and decided to expose everything. She contacted Daniela directly and sent her screenshots, photos on dates, and even videos. Solid proof, impossible to deny. When Daniela confronted him, Ivan didn't even try to lie. He told her without hesitation that he wasn't ready to commit and that she should never have expected faithfulness from him, as if being unfaithful was something she should have accepted from the start. And the most serious part wasn't that. The situation got worse when they argued in his apartment. They started yelling at each other, and everything got out of control when Daniela said she would leave him. He grabbed her with such force that he left marks on her arms. When she tried to leave, he pushed her against the wall, making her hit her head. She ended up with a black eye. The neighbors heard the screams and called the authorities. According to Veronica, it wasn't the first time he had gotten aggressive. Daniela had been hiding bruises for weeks, giving excuses about stupid accidents or falls at work. Typical behavior of someone being mistreated who doesn't know how to ask for help. It's impressive to see how it all unfolded. Just half a year ago, she left our stable 4-year relationship for the fantasy of getting back with her youth love. She traded everything we had built for an illusion that only existed in her mind. And what she got in return was half a year of lies, betrayals, and aggression. Ivan only saw an opportunity to have fun with an old girlfriend, regardless of the consequences. And when he got tired, he showed who he really was. I can't say I'm glad about what happened to her. Nobody deserves to be mistreated. But I do feel vindicated. She chose excitement over stability, impulse over trust. She chose her first love, ignoring the man who truly loved her. And now she has to live with the consequences. The worst part is how he's handling all of this. Instead of regretting or seeking help for his problems, he continues justifying his behavior. He tells mutual friends that Daniela was too intense, that the relationship wasn't working anymore. He doesn't mention the infidelities or the violence. He presents himself as the victim of a crazy ex-girlfriend who couldn't handle his free spirit. A typical move of the abuser, presenting himself as the sane one while the other person tries to rebuild herself among the rubble. Now Daniela is living with her parents, facing the fact that her soulmate turned out to be a nightmare. Those same parents who encouraged her to leave me now have to watch their daughter try to put her life back together. Suddenly, they're not so delighted with Ivan anymore. It seems that being deceived and hurt changes one's opinion of someone. Where did all that talk about destiny and true love go? That same family that celebrated that she left her fiancé for an old love is now seeing the result of that choice. And the most curious thing, several mutual friends have started asking about me. People who remember how our relationship ended and wonder how I'm handling all of this. I told Veronica to tell them the truth, that I'm fine and that I've already moved on. Because it's true. A few months ago, I started going out with someone new. Her name is Jade, and she's everything opposite to Daniela. Jade knows what happened, but she doesn't make it a problem or a competition. She recognizes it was a painful experience, but she focuses on building something beautiful with me. No drama, no mind games. Just what I needed. What I have now is totally different from what I experienced before. With the person I'm currently dating, we've decided to take it slow, without pressure, building something real and making each decision cautiously. An approach that seems logical now, especially after seeing how Daniela ruined her life chasing a romantic fantasy that from the beginning was destined to fail. The difference between my present and the disaster Daniela faces couldn't be more evident. While I build something solid with someone who truly wants to be with me, she deals with the consequences of having chosen drama over stability. Sometimes the best way to move forward isn't to get revenge, but simply to live well while the other person deals with the chaos they sowed. Daniela was looking for excitement, something different from what she considered a boring life. And boy, did she get excitement, although not the kind she imagined. And as was to be expected, she started trying to come back into my life. It all started a couple of weeks after my sister Veronica told me what had happened with her. My phone started ringing with unknown numbers. I thought they were work calls or spam, so I let them go to voicemail. Big mistake. The first message was from Daniela. Her voice was completely destroyed, crying, barely articulating words between sobs. She said she needed to talk to me urgently, that she had made a big mistake and that she really needed my help. I didn't finish listening to the message. I deleted it right away. It wasn't my problem anymore. She had made a decision 8 months ago when she chose to be with Ivan instead of me. The consequences of that choice didn't correspond to me. The calls continued, each time from a different number, as if she were asking friends for phones to borrow or using apps to create temporary numbers. Sometimes she would call several times a day, and since I no longer answered unknown numbers, all those attempts ended up in voicemail. The messages became more desperate as the days passed. First, there were apologies, acknowledging she had made a mistake, that what we had was genuine and valuable, and that she had let it go for a lie. Then she started talking about Ivan, about the hell she had lived by his side, that he had lied to her from the beginning, that he cheated on her with several women, that he made her feel like a fool, that he became aggressive when she tried to end things, that now she was afraid of what he might do to her. Each new message escalated. Daniela assured that she had finally understood that I was the good guy in the story, that Ivan showed her everything love shouldn't be, and that this made her value what she had with me. She called me her biggest mistake. She said she had been naive to let herself be carried away by adolescent feelings instead of recognizing what mature, true love was. It was a clear attempt at manipulation. She positioned herself as a redeemed victim and tried to present me as the savior she had despised without reason. And then, as expected, came the pleas to try again. She said she knew she had hurt me, but that everyone makes mistakes, that she was different now, that she knew what really mattered in a relationship. Different. She was the same woman who for months maintained secret contact with her ex while we were organizing our wedding. The same one who preferred an illusion to an honest life. And when that illusion became a nightmare, now she came looking for me, hoping I would rescue her. The messages got longer. She talked for minutes about the things she missed about our relationship. The tranquility, the trust, the security, maturity. She said I never made her feel less, that with Ivan she lived in constant anxiety, that she missed our apartment, coming home and finding me happy to see her, that Ivan's place always seemed cold to her, as if she weren't welcome there. Some messages stopped being sad and turned angry. She accused me of being cruel, of not responding to a person who was clearly in a critical situation, that I was holding a grudge instead of showing maturity and compassion for someone who, according to her, should still matter to me. And that, frankly, made me laugh. The same woman who destroyed our relationship now was indignant because I wasn't helping her get out of the hole where she herself had gotten into. She was asking me for emotional support after leaving me for someone else. It was surreal. The calls started coming at any hour of the day. Late at night, probably when she was intoxicated and regretful. First thing in the morning, when she remembered the life she had lost. Mid-afternoon, when something brought back memories. I started leaving my phone on silent mode just to avoid the constant sound of calls. Jade, the woman I'm dating now, noticed something was stressing me out. I told her about the calls, and she suggested I change my number. At first, I resisted. It seemed absurd to have to modify my contact information just because my ex didn't know how to accept no for an answer. But Jade was right. My peace of mind was worth more than proving something to Daniela. The calls were affecting me even without answering them. Coming home and seeing 6 missed calls from someone who just wanted me to solve her life was exhausting. But before I could change my number, everything stopped. I didn't receive any more calls for almost a week, the longest stretch since all of this had started. I thought she had finally understood that I wasn't going to respond, or maybe she had found someone else willing to carry her problems. But I was wrong. Daniela hadn't given up. She was just preparing her next move. It was Saturday morning. Jade had stayed over to sleep, as was usual. We were even talking about moving in together and looking for a more spacious place. Everything was going well, no rush, but in a good direction. I was in the kitchen making breakfast while she was showering. Then someone started banging on the front door hard. It wasn't a simple knock. It was like there was an emergency, as if the building was about to collapse. I looked through the peephole. Daniela was there with her mother. Both looked disastrous. Daniela had cried so much that her makeup was smeared, her hair was tangled, and she was wearing a giant hoodie that seemed to say she had given up on everything. Her mother had a tense, determined expression. She was the same woman who months ago had written to me saying her daughter had found her soulmate, and now she was standing at my entrance, helping her try to save what was left of that decision. I didn't open the door. I kept knocking, each time with more insistence. Through the wood, I could hear Daniela begging me to please talk to her for at least 5 minutes. Her mother, more direct, pointed out that my truck was in the driveway, so they knew I was home. At that moment, Jade came down the stairs wearing one of my t-shirts, her hair still damp, with a calm smile, completely oblivious to the chaos on the other side of the door. She asked me who was making so much noise. I told her it was my ex and her mother. And before I could stop her, Jade went straight to open the door. The knocking at the door stopped immediately. Daniela's face changed several times in a matter of seconds. First, surprise at seeing it wasn't me answering. Then confusion at seeing a woman she didn't know. Finally, an expression of anger when she understood what was happening. Her mother was also surprised, although she tried to hide it more successfully. Jade handled the situation impeccably. She was serene, polite, but firm in explaining that I wasn't available. She didn't get dragged into the drama, nor did she feel the need to give unnecessary explanations. She just stated the facts clearly. I approached Jade and put a hand on her shoulder. When she saw me, Daniela's expression changed drastically. Her look reflected relief, as if my mere presence was going to solve all her problems. She started talking immediately, saying she had tried to contact me for weeks, that we had to talk about everything that had happened. She confessed between tears that leaving me for Ivan had been the biggest mistake of her life. Her mother didn't take long to intervene, adding her own version of the story. She said Daniela had gone through hell with Ivan, that he wasn't who he appeared to be. Curious how from one moment to the next, Ivan went from being Daniela's soulmate to becoming a harmful figure. And that same woman who used to tell me they were the perfect couple now acted as if she had never supported that relationship. How convenient, I responded with short, direct phrases. I wasn't going to let them manipulate me emotionally or try to make me feel guilty for what once was. Daniela looked alternately at Jade and me, incredulous that I had moved forward. She asked us how long we had been together and couldn't hide her surprise when she found out that only 10 months had passed since she had left me for her ex. Then she pulled out the usual speech, that what we had was real, that with Ivan there was only confusion and nostalgia, that our relationship had solid foundations and wasn't a fairy tale like her failed attempt at reconnection. But it was too late. I responded clearly, what we had is in the past. It ended the day you chose another person over me. Her mother tried another tactic, appealing to my character. She described me as a good man. She said Daniela had learned from her mistake and asked if I couldn't give her another chance. I clarified that I had already forgiven her, but for my own peace peace of mind. Forgiving doesn't mean resuming a relationship. Forgiving is letting go of anger, not allowing someone to hurt you again. Daniela, increasingly desperate, wanted to know why I refused to even try again. I told her the truth. I no longer trusted her. She had shown me her true face when things got complicated, and that person was capable of abandoning what we had for an adolescent impulse. When she tried to justify herself by saying she was confused, I interrupted her. It wasn't confusion. It was selfishness. You wanted to keep me as a second option while you checked if Ivan was better than me. And when everything went wrong, you came back expecting me to receive you with open arms. She started crying inconsolably, begging for another chance, saying everyone makes mistakes. I reminded her that she had already had her chance. 4 years together, an engagement ring. You threw all of that away for 6 months with Ivan. When she described that period as a nightmare, I pointed out that it wasn't my responsibility to fix the results of her choices. Her mother made one last attempt. Really? Aren't you willing to consider getting back with someone who has understood what she lost? I responded. Daniela didn't understand what she lost. She discovered that her plan B was safer than her first choice. And that's not the same thing. Throughout the entire conversation, Jade remained by my side. She didn't need to say anything. Her mere presence was enough. She responded honestly to their questions about our relationship without being defensive or acting jealous. Her attitude was mature and firm. Daniela started showing her anger when she noticed I had really turned the page. I made her see that I did it after she left me. It's normal when someone chooses someone else over you. When she tried to play the guilt card about our 4 years together, I responded that for me they did mean a lot until she decided Ivan meant more. I looked at those 2 women standing in front of my door. One who destroyed what we had for a fantasy. Another who supported her decision until everything fell apart. 10 months ago, I would have done anything for Daniela. I would have married her, would have built a life together. I gave her my trust completely. Today, she was no more than a person from my past. Someone who made bad decisions and now wanted me to carry the consequences. I told them no, just that simple. And that refusal hit them hard. Daniela crumbled, and her mother stood paralyzed as if I had slapped her. I stayed there 1 more minute, perhaps waiting for me to change my mind or invite them to keep talking. But there was nothing more to say. Daniela had chosen. She lived the consequences, and now she wanted to erase them. But life doesn't work that way. They returned to the car in silence. Jade closed the door calmly and locked it without saying a word. Then she looked at me as if wanting to confirm that everything was okay. I nodded. I didn't feel upset, sad, or agitated. On the contrary, there was a strange calm in my chest, as if a cycle that had been dragging on too long had finally closed. What had just happened didn't leave me with doubts or remorse. Rather, it left me with a simple and powerful certainty. I was no longer the same man she left behind. Daniela believed she could come back when it was convenient for her, that I would be waiting for her as a guarantee of stability after having played with her past. But she was wrong. It wasn't about pride or revenge. It was clarity. I had understood that love isn't begged for, much less recovered when it's been replaced without contemplation. Jade didn't need to console me. Her mere presence said enough. What she represents in my life today isn't a comparison with what I had, but a demonstration of what I really deserve. A relationship built from sincerity, not from regret. I looked out the window at the car driving away down the street. I didn't feel pity or anger. I just closed the curtains, turned to Jade, and asked her if she was hungry. She smiled. And just like that, without the need for grand words, we moved forward. Because sometimes you don't need to look back to understand you made the right decision.